YouTube. I just do it because I like to do it. I find it helpful too. Like, did I say that during the class? 'Cause I forget if I taught them this, and it helps me to remember myself. Okay, so hopefully it looks like you know which course you're supposed to be in. World Religions. There's the information. You know which room it's in, what time it is in, basically. Do not go by that clock. That clock's 5 minutes fast, just to let you know. So if you think I'm like going over time, I'm not. It's about 5 minutes fast. I just realized it's 5 minutes fast. Okay. I am Dr. Matthew Dunn, the teacher of the course. I do not have an office, so I don't have any phone for you to call me. So there's my email. That will be our primary way of getting in touch. My primary way of getting in touch with you. You may have already received a couple of emails from me already. Certainly, you should have received one from me with the syllabus. And this is the syllabus. So email me, please. That's the best way to get in touch with me. Most reliable way, I should say. And what else is there to say? This is the syllabus. I sent out an email to everybody that I checked the course list last evening. So everyone that I had, I sent out an email with the syllabus attached. So you have a copy. You should have a copy. Please download it, read it. There's also a copy on the Canvas site. Maybe some of you've seen that already because I published the course on Canvas. So I copied and pasted, the syllabus on there. So you've got it in a couple places for you. Please read the syllabus. All right, that's your first assignment. It's long. I know. It's around 50 pages. That's just the nature of the beast. When I started out, my first syllabi were like 2 pages. Very sketchy. Can't do that anymore. People need the information. You have to treat it like a contract, like a cell phone. On your new cell phone. So read the terms. Before you click on you accept, which I know most people don't do. Well, I should say I know that. That's an assumption. I don't do it always. I try to, because I don't want to be deceptive. So I don't want to lie and say, oh yeah, I've read the terms. I look at them, I generally know what's going on. Okay. So I can, say that I've read the terms and click. Okay. But most people, I think, the syllabus is like, a cell phone contract. You don't read it until there's a problem, right? Some issue with your plan or something. Something's not working right, and then you're like, oh, do I deserve a new phone? Do I deserve to get refurbished? Warranty? And then you look, right? And you find out that you've waived all your rights to sue them and have jury trial. All has to be done through an arbitrator that they choose. Well, I'm sure they'll choose an arbitrator that will not be interested in people. But then you find out, right? So the same thing can happen with the syllabus. You're like, I don't want to read this. Okay, fine. I didn't want to write it. But I would spend hours and days writing it. Okay? You don't have to read all of it. But you should read certainly the essential parts of it, some of which I'm going to go over today. I'm not going to give you the basic idea, the lay of the land. I'm not going to go over everything. So I expect you to read the syllabus. All right? If you have a question about the course, and you haven't read some of the syllabus, look it up and see if it's in the syllabus. Okay? Because my first question to you is going to be, what does the syllabus say? You come up to me and say, well, Dr. Dunn, when are the quizzes supposed to come out on Canvas? How long do we have to take them? The final, is there a final exam or is there a midterm? Is it broken up? Right, Mr. Christmas? Now that's an easy one, sir. I apologize, because I know, sir, I'm not going to say, it's all I'm going to say, I'm never going to say another word for the rest of the semester. But anyways, God bless you, sir. I'm going to say, Mr. Kettner, what does the syllabus say, right? And if your answer is, well, I don't know, I don't remember what it says, I don't know, what's my next thing? What am I going to say? Yeah, read the syllabus. Read the syllabus. And no, I sound like a jerk, but I'm not trying to be a jerk. Okay? This is part of your job. All right? This is your first reading. Look at the syllabus. As I said, you don't have to read it all. Read the stuff that's definitely you know is important, like what you have to do for the course, the schedule, okay, the things that are going to affect your grade. But I mean, you know, whether you have a Title IX complaint or something, that's not, you know, that might not be of concern for you. You don't need to read that. If you need accommodation for the course, or disability accommodation, that doesn't affect you. You don't need to read that, right? You know, unless it affects you, unless you have a question. But I don't mind if you don't read it immediately and then you read it later because you have a question. But read it, please. Don't come up to me like not having read it and expect me just because, well, because I should know it, right? That I'm going to tell you. Well, my first question will be, well, what does the syllabus say? That's addressed in the syllabus. You're asking me a question I specifically addressed. And if your answer is indicative of the fact that you didn't even look at it, you don't know, you say, well, please read it. And if at the end of the day you think I'm a jerk, I'm okay with that. I'm not losing any sleep over. All right? But if something is unclear in the syllabus, if I've missed something or I've explained something in a confusing way, then surely I'll answer you, obviously. Or if you've read it and you understood it, but it's still whatever. Okay, fine. But please just read the syllabus. It's all here for you. All the dates where the quizzes come out, when assignments are due, okay, the reading schedule, what's going to be covered in the course, it's all here in very much detail. And it's thick because, well, it's not it's thick, it's this. Well, it's thicker than this because it's on two-sided page. But it is that just because of all the years of stuff that's come up, right? So like, okay, now I got to add an extra paragraph or another page to address this. Because it's like a contract. I mean, God forbid there's like a serious question, a grade challenge, or I did something, well, usually grading, or I'm not following a policy that you think should be followed. What does the syllabus say? And that's how I'll be judged. And the university will say, well, we rule in favor of the student because the syllabus says X, Y, and Z, and you did X, but you didn't do the others, right? So it's covering my butt, but it's also covering your butt, right? For both of us. It's a help for both of us. Okay, so read the syllabus. First, info. This is the course description that I took from the university catalog. It is not mine. I did not write it. I don't know who wrote it. So, as with, I think all of your professors to some extent, I'm assuming, we tweak things, okay? I'll try to follow it as closely as possible, but I'll tell you the things that I don't think I can do, or I'll tell you how I'm going to do them, okay? Because whoever wrote this, I don't even know if the person is a religious, is a theology major or a religious studies major or anything. They're just writing a description for the catalog. I don't know. So the 6 major world religions: Hinduism, Buddhism, Judaism, Christianity, Islam. Okay. Yes, we will cover those definitely, I think. And most probably not the Chinese religions. I don't specify what the Chinese religions are. Buddhism is in China. Okay, Islam is in China. All right, there's Christianity in China. So I think they mean like Taoism or Taoism, Confucianism, which is more of a philosophy and an ethic than really a religion. Maybe that's what they mean, I think. But we're probably not going to have time to cram those in. I'm sorry. If I can mention them, I will. I will mention them somewhat in the first lectures when we talk about what is religion, but you have to draw a line somewhere. And covering just these big heavyweights, Hinduism, Buddhism, Islam, that's a lot right there. The course focuses on the historical developments of each religion. Yeah, to some extent. I'll probably curtail that. I usually did like to go into the history, but I found that took a lot of time, more time than I didn't want to that I could devote to the actual beliefs of the religion, So the history is important, but I will probably cut stuff out. But I will look at historical developments, where they came from, and things that influenced each religion. Each religion's treatments of common themes like sacred literature, okay, sacred scriptures and stuff like that, morality, ethics. salvation motifs, if they have them. Some of them don't, like Hinduism does not believe in salvation, it believes in liberation, freedom. Buddhism isn't about salvation. And the role of prophetic figures, again, if they have them. Not every religion has prophets. There are no prophets in Buddhism, or really in Hinduism, I guess you could say. Judaism has prophets all over the place. You can't swing a dead cat without getting a prophet in Judaism. You know, Islam is based on the visions of a prophet. So, yeah, big in those religions, but not in others necessarily. Okay. And I would add to this, maybe I should put this in the syllabus, but I didn't think it was that important to add. Anyways, I will add to this a couple of classes talking about, since this is a Catholic institution, just contextualize, how, talk about how religion is studied in the secular way, okay, non-religious way, using, the tools of anthropology or psychology or whatever, just briefly. But I want to look at, religiously, how does the Catholic Church look at other religions, look at herself as a religion, but also the other religions of the world. What's the view that she takes of them? Okay, the textbook. There's only one textbook for the course, and then there are a bunch of readings that I've put on Canvas. You can find them on Canvas under modules. Okay, if you look under modules on the Canvas site. Come on. This is the textbook, World Religions, by Thomas Robinson and Hilary Rodriguez, 3rd edition. Yes, you want the 3rd edition. That's the most up-to-date tradition. That's the edition I'm using, so that's the one you want. And it should be on the bookstore website. I've checked it, and I put in the information, and it came up, and I selected it for the course, so it should be there. But I give you the information anyways, if you want to find your own copy. But that's the only textbook for the course, and what you're supposed to read, I give you throughout in the schedule. Let me just take a peek here at the schedule because I think our first reading. Let's see here. Yeah, chapter 1, which talks about what religion is in the book. So not all of you might have the textbook yet. Hopefully you've gotten it or it's on its way. But if you don't have it, I did put chapter 1. I scanned it, and chapter 1 is under modules. So just print it out or look at it, okay? I'm not going to do any more. I'm assuming that in the next week or two, you're going to have the textbook, okay? So, I'm not going to scan the whole textbook for you. I'd be violating copyright, but if I scan a whole chapter, isn't that violating copyright? Well, don't tell anybody. Well, no, there's a reason for it, and a good reason. So you have chapter 1 available to you, so you can do the reading for the first part of the schedule. But get the textbook, please, as soon as possible. The books. Grading elements. There's one final exam. There's no midterm. Just a final exam, which is cumulative of the whole course. Okay? And then there are 4 quizzes, 50 questions each on the quizzes. Okay? And as you can imagine, over the years of doing this, I have more questions than you will receive. Okay, so you're not going to see. I always like to tell my students, I know the final exam is cumulative, but remember, you're kind of studying for it already when you take the quizzes, yes? Okay, because the same questions, I'm not going to reinvent the wheel. The same questions are going to probably appear. I'll be using them. However, I have written a lot more questions, all right? I've got like 450 questions over the years, and there are only 120 on the final exam. So you can imagine that you might not get exactly the same as another person, right? So it helps with, I'm not saying anyone would, do this, like take pictures with their phone of the questions and save them, pass them around. Which means I got to maybe go back and change some of my questions because they've been around for a couple of years. So, but nevertheless, a lot of the questions you might find that are on the quizzes and that you can study from, that can help you to study with your notes for the final exam. Okay. As I said, I mentioned the quizzes. There are 3, I'm calling them minor projects. There are 3 assignments, and they're kind of like small research papers in a way. Okay. They're totally online, okay? Maybe you've looked at them or seen them already. The sun's coming. It's getting hot. Maybe you've seen them already on Canvas, taking a look at them, asking some questions about something. I show you a picture of something or ask you a question about something, and it's on you to look it up. Use the internet, ask a rabbi or an imam, if you know one, or can find them and email them, find a book in Keith's library, whatever, okay? And I'm basically I'm not setting any definite limits on how much you have to write or what you have to do. It's up to you to show me what you can do with information. If you can get it right, of course. I mean, the first thing is you want to make sure that you answer the questions correctly. If I ask something specific. But also that if you're going to, you can just barely answer the question and say, this is a picture of X. It's related to religion X. It means X. Okay, fine. Probably a passing grade, barely passing, for the project. But someone who, if you're thinking what a 10 out of 10, because each one is 10 points, a 10-point answer would be, or the best answer, you answer the question, but you explain what the answer means. You don't assume that I know what you're talking about. Maybe you throw in a couple of quotes, maybe something from the textbook that relates to it, or something you found online. You cite it so I can look it up. You just don't say it says this, but you show me, this is on the page number, what such and such, or you give me the link to the site that you used, okay? And you can decide how intensive you want to make it, how long you want to make it. But this is all described in the syllabus. All right? So there are 3 of those. Hopefully not too... Let's move away. Test assignments. Part of the grading element, but it's not really a grading element, is class participation, but you are graded on it. But it's not, I have a whole section where I describe class participation in the syllabus. I would say, you should take a look at that because it is 15% of the grade. And you want to know what I'm looking for. Mainly what I'm looking for is activity, okay? Yes, taking notes is good, bringing the textbook to the class, maybe putting it out so I can see it. All right. It's fine. They show me that you're involved in the course. So, I give you credit for those. But the main things are, do you ask questions? Do you show that you're really engaged up here? You're thinking about the course and the information. Do you ask questions? Do you answer questions? Are you willing to do readings in the course? Okay. Do you ask questions about the readings of the course? Oh, I forgot to mention that. Remind me to mention readings, please, somebody. I'll come back to it. So that's just to give you a sense of what I'm kind of looking for. Although I do take the other stuff into account. If someone comes to class all the time, they're here regularly, they have the stuff, Okay. But it can affect your grade because it is 15%. All right. Let me just go back to the readings for 1 second before I forget. With the readings, yes, the textbook, but there are readings I mentioned on Canvas, yes? Okay, so those you're told from week to week what the reading is for in the schedule, what to do, and you'll find them again under modules. So you just go there, okay? All right, I try to make it so that a lot of the readings are not oppressive, usually from newspaper articles, something like that, something that's kind of short and to the point, not... Or they're readings from a religious text that they're, not too long. Some of them might be longish, but mostly not. Because I didn't want to read them either, Yeah, I had to read them, because if I'm going to test you on them and ask you questions, I should know them anyways. I should know them myself. So yeah. Anyways, okay. So class participation. Related to class participation. Oh boy. Whew. Hot in here? No? Anyway, related to class participation is class attendance, because obviously if you're not here, you can't participate. So that can have an effect on, an interrelated effect on your class participation grade if you're not here. And I really recommend that you do read about class participation, okay? Because that can affect your grade. For me, this is my job, and I expect this is your job as well, all right? You might say, well, but I'm working a job, I put my guac on stuff in Chipotle. You know what I'm saying? You might have a job. I know. You might even have 2 jobs. I know it's expensive. I've been there, baby. All right. Want to talk about debt? Throw around numbers? Yes. Oh, yes, lots of debt. It's expensive to get a PhD. Should have just gone like to Staples and had them print out, because I paid for everything. What did I actually give me? You even had to have them pay to send me the degree. Was that not a diploma melon? Anything but. Maybe I shouldn't say that. Anyways, well, people think my school's legit. All right. Anyway, that's not the difference. So yeah. Well, if you're say you're working a job at Chipotle, well, and I've already got a job that I've done. Well, no, you've got 2 jobs actually, or 3 jobs. Another job. That's how I'm treating it, and I expect you to be here. Expect you to be here. That's your job, and doing your job. Okay. That's that's my role in your life. So class attendance. If you I have some policies like if you miss a month of the course, you're not going to pass. You get a straight F. If you miss over 7 classes, which is 8 classes, which is basically a month, a third of the course, I'm not passing you. It's not a hybrid course with online elements. You just watch videos that I might put on YouTube. No, it's a new class. I expect you to be here. Some of your parents might be expected to go to their job now, or they're doing online, right? If they have to go in for a few days, maybe not every day. Well, yeah, Tuesdays and Thursdays, you got to go into work. So if you don't come in for a month, they give you an F. And there are no exceptions to that. No exceptions to that. That's a hard and fast rule. Okay? Does it happen? Yeah, unfortunately it does. But it doesn't. It's not capricious. It's like I'm not trying to be a jerk. Obviously, if someone's in a car accident and you're laid up in a hospital for a couple of months, well, obvious circumstances, right? But there are other solutions to that, like taking it incomplete in the course, where you can kind of complete some of the requirements within a month. I think it's after, or withdrawing. In some cases, you just have to withdraw. And I'm sorry, and the university's sorry, but even if you look in the university catalog, they recommend, like in serious, when you have a serious event, that you might just have to withdraw. You cannot complete the requirements of whatever course you're taking, not just this bobo little general ed course, but your nursing, your radiology, all that stuff. You can't show up for clinicals, they dismiss you. I'm sorry. And it's not my fault. I didn't put you there. I didn't put you in the hospital or cause something to happen to you. I'm sorry for it. And I know people get angry and people want to shift the anger. I understand. I'm not trying to be a bad guy. I'm just trying to let you know what the policy is. Nevertheless, I know that things happen. I know that things happen during the semester. People get the flu. I know that. And the car breaks down. I know that. So even I do not excuse any absences. No absences excused. I think that's just the easiest way to state it and to do it. Okay. So when I go into record your absences for me, unfortunately can't see this in the portal. I don't know why, because they have it on Canvas, right? For doing absences, attendance on campus. And your professors do this. Use the attendance function on Canvas. You don't know? All right. I'm going to imagine not, because it's a term. All right. Like Canvas is. Well, I shouldn't say. It's a term. It's lousy. But we're stuck with it, or I'm stuck with it. But on the portal, I can do your attendance, and it says, is it excused? Is it not excused? I'm not going to get into those battles with people. Where I then have to justify if it was excused or unexcused. Well, I had the flu this time, and you excused it, but then I had something else, and you don't excuse it. No, it's just simple. Okay, it's because it's clear. No absence is technically excused, but I do recognize that things happen. So for 4 absences, I basically ignore them. All right, so 2 weeks of class, if you have, you don't have to miss 4, but I allow for 4, okay? And I think that's fair and that's standard, as I was mentioning before with like the radiology program. If you miss 4 clinicals, they kick you out. They kick you out. So I don't think I'm doing anything that's like bizarre. It's there in the catalog, the undergraduate catalog. But I'm not kicking you out. I'm just saying if after 4 you start having more absences, it's going to affect your final grade because you're not here. You're not at your job. Okay? And I want to know where you are, why you're not here. Even if you're still doing the work. Okay? Another reason I don't excuse absences is because I don't want someone to get the impression that just because you might think you have a good excuse, and you might, that I have to excuse you. Someone always seems to die in people's families. Someone with death. No, I'm just saying. It always seems to. God forbid it will happen to anyone in the class, but someone always has some relative die, and they have to always go to the funeral. I get that. But if you already got 5 absences, that's going to be number 6. Yeah, but they died. Okay. Shouldn't that be excused? No, it shouldn't. It's not excused. Sorry. I might consider it at the end of the course. All right, and I will. I mean, I'm not a monster. All right, but I will consider things at the end of the course. But sometimes I can't. Someone might just have so many absences, and also they never tell me. Like they never send me an email telling me what the problems were. I got nothing to go by. This person got 6 absences. 2 beyond the 4, so I take off the deduction. If I can work with you, I can. If I know if there's an issue. All right. But again, another reason I try to keep it kind of clear cut about no absences excused is for that. I don't want someone to think that just because you have an excuse that I have to do it. I have to excuse. So that's class attendance. So be aware of that, please.
What about sports?
Oh, that's addressed in the syllabus. If you are an athlete, because I do believe we have several athletes in here. There are things that you're supposed to do. That's all spelled out in the syllabus. You're supposed to give me just a very quick rundown. You're supposed to get your schedule with any conflicts with classes where you might be, you have an official thing, not for practices or stuff, scrimmages, but for official games or things that you might need to attend. You're supposed to have that. You're supposed to also give me a paper that I'm supposed to sign. It's all in the syllabus. Yeah, so take a look at that, please. Yeah, there are some exceptions. There are 4 specific exceptions to the no excused absence. I'll still mark not excused, just to keep it clear in Portal, but I'll make a note so I know that this is what was going on, so it won't even be held against you. But yeah, those are like people in the military, athletes, what else? People who have religious holidays, religious obligations. What's the 4th one? Is it accommodation? But anyways, it's in the syllabus. The schedule is in the syllabus. Take a look at the schedule. Tells you what the readings are from week to week. Your first reading is the syllabus, and then chapter 1. So you follow that for the readings from week to week as we move along. And then after that, there's the section conduct of the course. This is one big part of the syllabus you can kind of, I don't say ignore, but, not speed read. Because a lot of it, is all sorts of bits and pieces and a lot of it might not apply. A lot of you in the class might not have to worry about a Title IX. Some of you, might not be athletes, so that doesn't apply. You don't need to worry about that information. One thing there are 2 things in that section of the conduct of the course that you do need to worry about and should take a look at are, well, obviously don't come to class high or drunk. So, that applies to me as well, I'm sober. All right. Anyway, some of this does apply to me too. I put stuff in here about what you should expect from me. Okay. But computers, yeah, allow computers. I'm glad you asked. Most people already have them out and open. Thank you. All right. Yeah, I mean, uh, you know, I've gone both ways on this in the past, and I think I've just kind of given in to the fact that they're here. People need them. They use them to write on. I could force. I could say no computers. Some professors do. I think a few. I've heard at least one professor who does not allow computers. But because of course the issue is the internet, and I know people are not going to listen to me because I walk around the room not spying on you because I just like to be myself active. Helps me. I just like it. Not spying on you, looking for anybody. But I don't like to be stationary. Anyways, so I know that people are, I've had students who go gambling and playing games and watching movies and stuff. I know. And, they're brazen about it. That's just the way it is. People don't apologize for it. It's there, I might mention it, I might not. But I'm not going to go crazy over it. I'm not going to flip out and get angry over it. It bothers me. Does it bother me? But it bothers me. But I'm not going to lose sleep over it. Okay? Because I already know our civilization has started crumbling. I know it. I know we're in a dark age. I've accepted that fact. Okay? That we started. That doesn't mean technology, because we could be in a golden age with technology. All the possibilities of AI. Oh, yes. But there are the bad possibilities of AI. Just because the Middle Ages technology did not advance as quickly as it did, say, from 1700s to the modern period, doesn't mean it was all bad. Instead, people call it the Dark Ages. All right, well, people can't spell anymore or read. It seems to be a problem. But I'm okay with that. All right? I'm okay. I've got my ticket to the circus, and I'm sitting in the front row. I'm observing. Can't really stop the elephant from falling on the other people, but I can watch it. No. Right. So I'm just giving you some of my philosophy about why, if some of you get some benefit from using the computers, you're taking notes and you can download the PowerPoints and Canvas and put them on, and I recommend that. Put them on your computer. You can annotate them and use them to help you, okay, stuff like that. Great. If you just want to daydream and not pay attention to me, well, all right, fine. It's your money. Okay, it's your time and your money. So I'm not going to go crazy over it. However, if I do notice that people are actively ignoring me, like blatantly, it's like it becomes an issue, that could affect your grade. If I start making marks, active ignoring, that can significantly lower your class participation. I think that's all that affects the class participation. I don't think it affects anything else. Indirectly, your final grade, but only for 15%. So yeah, use your computers. Obviously, I'm not going to say anything about that. Anything more? Accommodations. You have a disability accommodation. You have to identify yourself to the university, and then they will give you a paper that you are supposed to give to me. Okay? I do not give accommodations. Okay? And it has to be legitimate. It has to be a chronic illness of some kind or some disability that like a doctor, physician, okay, can vouch for and can be proven or given proof for. All right. So yeah, now you might say, well, yeah, but Dr. Gunn, I broke my leg and I was out for 3 weeks. Shouldn't that be like an accommodation? Shouldn't you finagle the class for me? Or I got mono. Who seems to still get mono. I never got mononucleosis in my life. A lot of people still do seem to get it. Well, anyways, and I was laid up for a month. All right, fine. I'm very sorry for you. Doesn't that deserve an accommodation? I was sick. No, it's not the same thing. It's not a disability. It's an accident. Okay? People get hurt. People get sick, and I'm sorry that it happens to you. But I'm not going to finagle and rejigger the whole course for you because something bad happened in your life. I'm sorry. Nor will the university. I mean, the university, if you think that it's serious enough, like you find out, like you're diagnosed with something, then yes, of course, I highly recommend go to the university and ask for an accommodation. But I'm not obliged to do something for you, just so you know. Okay? And I probably won't. All right, I'll be sympathetic, but I'm not gonna like revamp the course because someone like I'll turn part of the course all online for somebody so that they can do stuff while they're laid up in the hospital or at home. No, that's sorry. You got to choose other options. Right? That's not a disability evaluation. Because some people think it is. You know, like, but Dr. Dunn, don't you know? I'm a bad man. Trying to be a good man, but sometimes I am a bad man. Sorry. No, not sorry. No, doesn't say that. Not doing it on purpose. So accommodations. Okay, I think that's it. I think that's all I have to say about the syllabus. The rest of it you can look at. The dates of the quizzes are here. The final exam. The dates when each minor project is due are here. So yeah, take a look. Does anyone have any questions or anything not clear? Or... Yes. All right. Well, if you do, ask me later. That's fine. Da 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 dee. Do 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 do. Da 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 do. What do we got here? The PowerPoint. Here we go. What is religion? All right, so let's start out by defining our subject. Asking the question of what are we talking about? You know, watch the football game last night? Steelers and who was they playing against? Steelers and huh? 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 No, it's the Texans. Yeah, it was the Texans. I didn't watch all of it. I saw some of it. I know the Steelers lost, right? Was it 30-6 or something? Or yeah, that's kind of like when I left. You know, it's like wow, they didn't score any more points at all. Oh well, I guess you can have a great quarterback or somewhat, but if you don't have the other pieces, oh well. Was that religious? I was watching. I saw some of these guys. Now is the fad to put this black stuff all over your face. I mean, I used to be in the old days. You put it under your eyes to, to take care of the glare from sunshine, right? Baseball players and football players sometimes do that, because apparently it took off the glare from the sun shining on your face. But now it's like people have it like smeared down their cheek. They've got messages written in it, signs of the cross. I haven't seen any pentacles or pentagrams yet, but it's coming. There got to be some Wiccans in the NFL, right? Somewhere. They sing songs. They have a special book that they follow. They've got these authorities on the field who are dressed in special clothing, even have special caps that they wear, hats that they wear, and these little colored flag things that they wave around to symbolize that they have something to say. They're about to make a judgment on something that was done. Rules. Not religious, though, right? It was a football game, right? It wasn't religious, right, Ms. Morgan? Ms. Morgan? Aren't you Ms. Morgan? Yeah, I got it. Ms. Morgan. Oh, wait, no, sorry. Not Ms. Morgan. Ms. Morrison. No, not Ms. Morrison. What's the first letter of your last name, Miss? B? V. Oh, Vatos. Oh, Vols. Excuse me, stupid. Morgan is your first name. Ah, okay. That's what my brain did. It reversed it. Okay, sorry, Miss Vols. Ms. Vols. Excuse me, Ms. Vols. All right, well, that's fine. That's how I remember. Make mistakes and start remembering. Okay. Yeah, I mean, it has a lot of the qualities of a religion, doesn't it? A special text that you're supposed to read that will bind you and give you has all sorts of rules. How you're supposed to live your life, at least on the football field, what you can do, what you can't do, what's the purpose of what you're doing. Special authorities that teach you and make decisions about the rule book and what it means. All special ways to do things. You can't just pick up the ball and start running with it. It has to be passed backwards, right? Always backwards. Isn't that interesting? Why always backwards? Otherwise, it's an illegal snap, isn't it? Yes? No? By a certain person. Someone called a center. Even as a special, he's a center. Someone called a center. Can a guard do it? What about a quarterback? Can he hike the ball? Can he snap it backwards? Can a quarterback do that? A punter? Miss Free J, where are you? Where are you, Miss Free J? There you are, Miss Free J. I just wanted to make sure I was here because I thought maybe I transported myself, like the Buddha entering nirvana. No, it has to be done by the appropriate person. Otherwise, it's a penalty. They'll harm you 5 yards backwards. They punish you if the wrong person touches the ball and uses it in the wrong way. No, we receive communion on the tongue in this church, sir, not in those dirty hands. No, that's the proper way to do it. You remove your shoes when you enter our mosque, miss, and you cover your head. And it seems like the rest of you is appropriate from a Muslim point of view. Otherwise, you ain't getting in. I'm not making that personal. I'm just using it as an example. You ain't getting in, ladies. If you're not wearing a helmet, can't you play football without a helmet? What if you don't want to wear those pads and the bulky helmet? You see some of these weirdo helmets that you got guys looking like the Bic, the Bic pens and the logo of the Bic pens, the guy with the big, or it's like dark helmet from Spaceballs, You see the movie Spaceballs with dark helmet with this huge. Some of these guys, because they've already expanded the size of the helmets with more padding, if you've noticed. They look like the Coneheads from Saturday Night Live. Remember the Coneheads? Dan Aykroyd. And then some of them, I guess, they got a concussion, so they put extra padded helmet on top of them. And I'm telling you, I keep thinking it's like the Bic logo running around the field, the Bic pen man. Keeping the game safe. But what if you don't want to wear all that stuff? What the heck with this? I'm just playing. You have to play football with all those pads? Who does it say in the rule book you have to? So you have to have special clothing that you have to wear or they won't let you on the field. Okay, ladies, you have to have special clothing. Otherwise, you take a trip to Greece, they ain't letting you in some churches. They certainly aren't going to let you in a mosque the way a lot of Western women dress. But they might not let me in as well if I won't take off my shoes. So how is the football game last night not religious? There's all sorts of little connections with what people do in religions, right? They even sing about God. They have hymns. They start the whole thing off with a big hymn as, thing gets going, this thing's starting. They start with a song, and sometimes they invoke God. Sometimes people are even praying before the game. They're down on a knee. They're praying after the game. They're praying during the game when they score. Somebody gets hurt. Everyone's all of a sudden on a knee. Well, not everyone. The atheists are. So you know who they are. And yet it's not really. If I ask you, is what you saw, if you saw it, because, like, you won't tell me. I get it. It's passive aggressive. That's all right. Took some psychology courses in the seminary. Okay, it's a defense mechanism. But I got 2 words for you. Bad drop. Bad drop. If you don't like me, that's fine. No. No, I'm just kidding. No, I'm not kidding. If you don't like me, that's fine, because I want you to learn. So you should have a teacher who's going to be best for you. If I'm not, then that's fine. But I do want you here. What was I saying? Oh, is it religious? Because there seem to be so many elements that make it religious. And no one can, when I ask this question of myself, but also of my students, it seems to be pretty difficult, I find, and not just because I'm not going to accept any answer. I know, I am really looking for an answer. I'm really trying to figure it out myself. What makes the game between the Steelers and not the Ravens, the Steelers and the Texans last night that I saw on TV, not religious, but if I were watching Pope Leo say Christmas Eve Mass or Midnight Mass in Rome, that is religious. Well, maybe it's not violent. It's not a contact, like football is a contact, right? There's violence involved, right? There's violence involved in religion, too. Getting back to Islam. Shiite Muslims whip themselves bloody during the month of Muharram when they remember the death of Ali's were they sons? Hassan and Hussein. We'll learn about them later when we talk about Islam. I'll show you a picture. They got these big hook chains, and people go out on the streets, and they're whipping and whipping and whipping, or they smack themselves on their heads until they're bloody. There's violence in religious practice. Oh, yes. Kill an animal for a sacrifice. There's violence in religious practice, too. Religion can be a full contact sport. The Olympics. The Olympics were totally religious. They're secular now, but the purpose of Olympic Games, and they were not the only games, there were other games played, was always to honor the gods. So even religion has full contact. All right, so what is it? I took this example of the blue elephant actually from a religion called Jainism. It's a small little religion from India. There's actually a Jain temple not far, a couple of hours from here, up where I live in northern New Jersey, surprisingly enough. And there's this idea in Jainism of perhapsism, maybe close enoughism, I guess you could call it. But there's a parable from the Jain religion of 3 blind men, or blind people, or people who are blind. So I don't want to offend anybody. People who are blind, who are visually impaired. All right, fine. Who can't see. All right, they can't. Their eyes don't work, so they can see. All right, you know what I'm talking about. And they each come upon an elephant. These 3 men. And they are touching it, but of course they can't see it. They can only feel. They have a sense of feeling it. And so they're feeling the skin and the tail and the trunk, and it doesn't have fur, but the hair that's on the hair on the elephant, and the tusks and stuff like that, the horns, and trying to figure out, and you ask them, what is this? Well, it's an elephant, if they ask. It's an elephant. Okay, so you have the concept, you have the idea, but what is it then? How do you define it? In this case, if you ask what color it was, one blind person might say, well, I think from what I'm feeling, it feels like it would be a bluish color, or not bluish, a reddish color. Some might say, I think it's probably black, or I think it's white, or whatever. Okay? Perhaps it's this. Perhaps it's that. Perhapsism. Okay? We got the actual term from, I think it's Svyata. Svyata. Okay? Which is Sanskrit for maybe. So maybe we know this. Maybe we know that. But we only know a piece of it. And the purpose or the meaning of this Jain parable is that no one has the full truth, actually. We have a piece of the truth. But we might not even have the right truth, so we have one person saying, oh, it's white. It's black, but it's actually blue in my picture. Okay, in the Jane parable of this religion, each blind man has a piece. One guy's holding on to the tail, another guy's touching the skin, another guy's holding the trunk, and they each come up with different answers of what it is because they can't see it. And it's kind of like the same thing with truth. We can know what something is. We say we know what something is, and yet, how much do we really know? Time. This is a quotation from a Christian gentleman called St. Augustine of Hippo. Hippo was an ancient city in northern Africa, the northern part of the continent of Africa. Yes, I should show you where that is. Google Maps. Google Map, where are you? Here we go. Here we are. We go east towards the continent of Africa. There we go. Northern Africa. All right, and Hippo was in this northern part. Who would it be? Maybe modern-day Algeria. Could be in modern-day Tunisia, one of these two countries. But it was up here in northern Africa, the city of Hippo, Hippo Regius. And this guy was a bishop. He was a religious leader of that town, St. Augustine of Hippo. And he wrote a famous book, the first autobiography. So you might even read this in a literature class or read from this because it is famous, even though it's a religious work, the Confessions. It is considered the first true autobiography. Okay, a person writing about not just himself, but his thoughts and his opinions and interpretations of his life. The Confessions. It's a confession. He's telling you his story. And in his story, he talks about a number of things. And in book 11, he says this. Would anyone like to read this from the PowerPoint? From Augustine of Hippo. Miss, hold on. Because I want to get the name as well. No, I don't think so. Oh, Ms. Wambold. Okay, Ms. Wambold, go ahead.
For what is time? You can easily and briefly explain it. Who even in thought can comprehend it? But when speaking, do we refer to more familiarly and knowingly than time? And certainly, we understand when we speak of it. We understand also when we hear it spoken of by another. What then is time? If no one asks of me, I know. If I wish to explain to him who asks, I know not.
Yes. What is it? Not just time, but other things, No one asks you what it is. You know it. You know what it is. But then if someone stops and says, wait, what is that really? It's like, you can't come up with a definition a lot of times. No pun intended. Okay. We find the same thing with religion. Sports are sports and religion is religion. Okay, but what is religion? What is a sport? But I'll stick with religion. You might be interested or maybe perplexed or whatever, surprised to know that many religious study scholars today do not know or unsure of what religion is. They don't have a definition for it. Some of them think that it's not even possible to define what religion is. All right. Well. So, for example, I probably should have put this PowerPoint slide in first. Hold on a second. Let me go. Hold on a second. Oh, what did I do with you? Oh, I thought I had it. Oh, I guess I didn't put it on. All right. Well, it doesn't matter. Maybe I wanted to pass over. So it's not even a debate. I mean, it seems to me like the debate has kind of even closed within those who specifically study what's called religion. They've kind of already come to the conclusion that you kind of just each scholar kind of makes up his or her own mind about what religion is, and that's what they're doing. And that's what they're studying by that definition. Okay. if you ask one of the most famous religious studies scholars, maybe I did do this. Maybe it's on the PowerPoint. Do you see a picture of a? Does anyone have the PowerPoint out? Just want to check it with mine to make sure I have it. Do you have it, Ms. Morrison? Morris? No, Malatesta. Do you have it? Do you mind if I take a look? Yeah, thanks. Just want to see. Make sure I didn't put the wrong thing. Oh, there it is. Why is that not on mine? It's right there. Thank you. Yeah, I knew I was missing something. No, the PowerPoint is fine. Mine is not. The one I've got on here is not. It's another version. Hold on a second here. Just want to make sure that I didn't. All right, that's fine. Hold on. Okay. Just have to go through the portal. Don't worry, I know you can't see my password, so I hope you can't. No, there you go. La, da, da, da. I should do this anyways. Hold on a second here. Give me a second. Because I'm absolutely sure I don't. Whoops. Whoops, I think I'm wrong. Do. Let's get that. There, almost there. You can just leave me alone. Where are we here? There we go. I gotta find the right one. There we are, spring. Alright. World religions. There we go. Modules. What is religion? Downloading it would be the best way. Okay. Oops. All right. Sorry about that. I transferred an older copy to my USB, but I got the one from Canvas, so got the right one on there. At least for me. You've got the right one already from Canvas. Yes, there we go. Jim Jones. That's what I wanted to see. Okay. Who was not a religious man? Jim Jones, his church, his temple, People's Temple, as it was called, actually was associated with, I think, the Disciples of Christ, the denomination called the Disciples of Christ. But he was an atheist. He was not religious at all. He was a Marxist socialist. But see, he dressed up like a minister because he thought that that's how he could, convince people to listen to him. If he kind of set it up like a church service, people will be more likely to listen to his views. Okay, here's what I want to see as well. This guy, this dude, Jonathan Z. Smith, Zettel. The Z stands for Zettel. Jonathan Z. Smith. He's dead now, so may he rest in peace. but famous religious studies scholar. He's the one that basically ended this discussion. He said his argument was there is no such thing as religion. It's just a word that was created by the modern academy, eggheads, scholars, most usually Western scholars, white males from Western Europe, Germany. A lot of stuff is going on in Germany in the 1800s, a lot of scholarship. And religious studies, yes, did come out of the work of the German scholars. They just made it up. They made it up as a category to describe certain things that they were seeing and encountering that didn't seem to fit in the cultures, that didn't seem to fit with other categories like politics or philosophy or sports, as I mentioned. So it's just a category created for classification purposes, to analyze data. It really has no existence of its own. All right, they're just these things within human culture, and they're not religious in and of themselves. We just call them religious so that we can handle them and deal with them and talk about them and have departments at universities devoted to them, or maybe not. And I got two covers of two textbooks that I used in the past, but I don't use anymore because they bored me to death. Paul Maier, this one. Introduction to Religious Studies. Yes, anyways. He's the editor. He wrote one of the opening chapters talking about this, the introductory chapter. It's just that religious studies is basically studying human activities, and some of these human activities we call religion or religious. But it's the scholar who's making the definition. There's nothing really there. It's what the scholar decides to kind of qualify as religious by their definition. So Maier, in the textbook, he's like, not only will no definition be given for this religion in this textbook, but none will even be encouraged. You won't even be encouraged to try to come up with a definition. And this is in a book that's called Introduction to Religious Studies. Telling you, not only are we going to tell you what we're studying religion is, I'm not even going to press you to try and figure it out. Well, I mean, when I'm reading this, and I'm not a religious studies major, I'm a theologian, but, some of our, we mix together, because I am dealing with religion too. Imagine if you're taking like psychology or biology or chemistry here, one of the what we call the hard sciences, or nursing or radiation technology or whatever, or business and economics and stuff like that, financial stuff. And in the first chapter of the book, they're like, well, there's this thing called economics, but we just made it up. There really is nothing. Money really doesn't exist. Well, maybe now it doesn't with Bitcoin. But, things of value that people barter and trade, we see these things and we call them economics. Or we call it biology when people are studying living creatures and stuff. But there really is no definition we can give to this. We really don't know as biologists what we're studying. And you know what? I don't even encourage you to give a definition. It's what you want biology to be. Oh, okay. Oh, really? Oh, that's interesting. I'm teaching some of the biology classes here at Gwynedd Mercy with my own definition. I'm just saying it might be rather interesting, Ms. Moralia, I might throw a few curveballs. I mean, especially when we get to biological evolution. Not that I'm not saying that things didn't happen within a certain time period. My time period might be a little bit different than anyone take biology here? Yeah, I mean, my time period might be a little bit different than what you learned. Not in billions of years, but maybe in days. A few days. I need some Southern Baptists in class. Any Southern Baptists? Solid. No? They'll get my religious jokes. No, you make it up. Yeah, I'd probably drop that course too. I mean, because you're killing your field, which might explain why, universities, when they're dealing with money and stuff, the business office, someone in the business office might say, well, what department are we going to keep going? Are we going to keep the department of such and such going where they know what they're teaching and they committed to it, or a department where they have you can't get a straight answer about what their subject is. It's anthropology, or their sociology, it's sociology, or they use politics, Marxist-Leninist views. So, okay, then we'll just break apart the department and put you in the political department, political science, put you in anthropology, you in something else, archaeology. Yeah, why do you need a religious studies department? They're killing their own field, my opinion. But there's no reason to funnel money into a department where they can't even define what their subject is. I think it's a bad idea, but whatever. Patterns of religion. I think this was the first textbook I used when I started out. There's no such thing as religion in general, is basically their argument. All right. Then I guess if there's no such thing, then why am I asking my students to buy your textbook? Right, Mr. Yeah. Why am I even asking them to buy your textbook if there's no such thing that... All right. It's nuts, in my opinion. How can you write books about religious studies or religion? How can you be one of the top experts in religion, like Jonathan Z. Smith, and then say that there's nothing there to identify? Well, where did you get your PhD in? Comic books. All right, Spider-Man. All right, fine. You're pulling the rug, but, they're overthinking. I think this is a prime example of people who are smart people, I think. Smith was very smart. I'm not saying he wasn't. But overthinking even his own field to the point of annihilating it. Okay? No, I'm going to argue that there is something as religion, but I'll argue more about that on Thursday when I see you again. God bless you all. Have a good day. I got it. Yes, thank you, miss. I just want to stop the recording so I don't violate any privacy. Yes, I got it, miss. Thank you.